Thank you for joining us on our connected intelligence journey. Throughout the month of November, 𝐸𝐸 will be hosting a series of webinars that explore how breaking down today's intelligence silos within companies and integrating them will help transform your organization's approach to accurate forecasting, enhancing marketing strategy planning, granular business intelligence, and growth optimizations. We encourage you to sign up for additional sessions if you feel there is interest. My name is Tom O'Sullivan. I'm the SVP of Client Engagement at 𝐸𝐸. I've actually been with 𝐸𝐸 2 years. Prior to that, I spent a significant time in the marketing research and analytics industry. Spent time at Nielsen, a company called Symphony Technology Group that at one point in time owned IRI and Simmons, Analytic Partners, and T-Vision. I worked with partnering with Fortune 500 companies and agencies on leveraging data and analytics to drive increased revenue growth. Our first webinar in the month of November is Breaking Intelligence Silos, an introduction to connected intelligence. Connected intelligence fully integrates traditional intelligence silos, creating a unified view of our organization's data and insights. During this session, we will discuss how companies that adapt an integrated connected intelligence approach lead to more accurate forecasting, strategic planning, and better informed decision-making across all departments. I have the pleasure of introducing our two speakers for today. Bharath Kadam. Bharath's experience provides you with a deep understanding of the challenges faced by Fortune 500 companies such as McDonald's, Puma, Nike, Domino's, Dove, and Volkswagen. This diverse experience across various industries and hands-on work with these iconic brands solidifies his understanding of consumer behavior and the evolving marketing landscape. Also, it's given him insight in terms of creating 𝐸𝐸, which he started in 2019. 𝐸𝐸 is a comprehensive connected intelligence and growth planning measurement and optimization service designed to empower data-driven decision-making and agile marketing strategies through the revolutionary usage of causal AI and neural networks. Our second speaker for today is Vijay Viswanathan. Dr. Viswanathan is the Associate Dean of the Integrated Marketing Communication at Northwestern University's Medill School. His research focuses on consumer decision-making, especially in branding, pricing, cross-media consumption, and social influence. His work has essential implications for the economic impact of managerial decisions related to brand architecture, loyalty programs, consumer engagement, and omni-channel strategy. He uses a wide range of research methods, from designing and analyzing surveys to developing sophisticated AI-driven quantitative models to maximize the ROI of various marketing actions. We are thrilled to have him join us today to kick off our webinar sessions. Before I turn things over to Bharath and Vijay, I wanted to cover a few housekeeping rules before we get started. First off, all attendees, you'll notice that your microphones will be muted. So if you hear the dog barking in the background or your kids jump on your lap, don't worry about it. We won't hear it. You'll be the only one to have to hear that. If you have questions, please post them in the Q&A section of the screen. We'll attempt to address each one of these questions during the presentation, or if we can't get to them, we'll address them at the end of the session. Now I'll turn the ball over to Bharath and Vijay.
Hi, guys. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are from across the world. Hi, Vijay. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Before we actually get into the session, I thought I'll just share, one of the reasons why I'm very passionate about connected intelligence is because of the frustrations I've gone through for 25 years of my, planning and strategic planning work with siloed ROI, siloed insights, not able to optimize and get almost make the ROI insight for just building conviction rather than actually actioning upon it. And that's the reason why we built 𝐸𝐸, and we're glad that that's becoming the most important aspect of what every enterprise is looking for to create their own intelligence for the future. What's your passion around connected intelligence?
Oh, but it's either fight or flight. I think you were fighting. I decided to fly. So I worked in Unilever and ICICI for a couple of years, and it was just not frustrating, but just sad to see that there was no method to the madness when it comes to budgeting every year and trying to plan out the calendar for the next year. And that's what got me to the academy. So that's my flight story. And so ever since, I've been really working in the world of data and also working with companies trying to help them understand how to put the pieces together. And working with DataPoint the last 5 years has again been amazing. So I think I'm now getting back to flying to the other side from the academy back to the world of
Yeah,
practice. So it's been good. Yeah.
awesome, awesome. Okay, let's kickstart this without any further ado. Uh,
So you let me know it's in presentation mode, Bharat, then I'll get
yeah,
right.
can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can see. Tom, thanks so much for the
Okay,
introduction. Yeah, we're going to dive straight into it. We have a lot of content to cover, and I think the most interesting part of this is the case study that Bharat is going to take you all through. It's a real world project that he wants to share, how you can work through the challenges. So agenda, we're going to work through first the current state of business intelligence challenge, really go through that a little bit, and then really look at what connected intelligence really means. I'll maybe put my academic hat on and say, what is intelligent and what is not. Then we'll go through a case study, and then we'll hopefully have a really nice, robust Q&A, right? So if you go to the next slide, let me talk about the challenge, right? The big challenge here is that right from the CMO all the way down, people are trying to figure out, how do I really plan? So every organization or firm has goals, big goals, objectives, promises to Wall Street. And so at the strategic level, there are just a lot of big questions being asked. Things on return on investment or return on assets or return on equity. How do I plan for growth? What does my sales plan looks like? So just a lot at the higher echelons of any organization in terms of strategic planning. But there's not enough data being systematically used in this process that's really coming from the ground up. And so there's still a lot of heuristics and gut instincts being used or just pure experience. And that works well up to a certain extent, but we know that the best in class really use data very intelligently to make some strategic planning decisions around that. So this is at the higher echelons. And then if you grow down to the more tactical and operational level, there are everything around, where do I spend my money? What channels are working? Where are my customers? And what are they responding to? Is it really my ad spend that got all these clicks and interests, or is there something else in the marketplace? And so truly understanding more at the field level or at the tactical level, what's working, what's not working, and more importantly, the why is still a big challenge. And we thought that data would solve the problem, but if anything, maybe data has made it more complicated because now we have a lot of data and we still don't know exactly how to deal with it, right? And so that's a big the data is flowing everywhere. We just don't know how to use it. So some of the big challenges are really around silo optimization. Different teams, doing different things, and still marketing is still organized by agencies. I have a digital agency, I have a performance agency, I have a programmatic agency. You're working with all sorts of different agencies now, and maybe there's a new generative AI agency that has now come into play, and now you're trying to figure out what do I do in the world of LLMs. And so you are trying to maximize perhaps what each agency does for you, but it's very hard to sort of connect the dots. So silo optimization. And, fun story here is that 30 years ago, I'm part of the integrated marketing communications program at Northwestern. This program came into being because people were frustrated with media fragmentation in the 1990s. And now, if anything, media has got even more fragmented. So how do I really take an outside-in approach to media planning and resource allocation is still a burning question. When your silos are not fully connected, you are underestimating ROI. You are not really looking at forecasting in any accurate way. Often our predictions are way off. And that affects future decision making and future resource allocation decisions. And so, there's really no steady way to go from the granular tactical level to planning for different scenarios and strategic plans, right? There's just a big disconnect between what we're doing at the ground level and then what we're trying to plan strategically. So all over, if anything, things are a little bit more complicated than before. So let's go to the next slide, Bharat. Let's go a little bit more deeper and really look at the reasons. And Bert, feel free to jump in here. Right, the big issue here is not lack of data, but maybe just too much data in different warehouses and different lakes, and no real method to the matters in terms of how do we sort of bring them together. And Bert, you may want to talk about some of your experiences there.
Yeah. See, what happens is that like we said, there are different functions within the organization. They're actually collecting different sets of data, and all the data sits within the function. It is not, unified in some form, and sometimes it's not fully robust enough. It's not coherently validated, so it's not really used for intelligence. That's one level of problem. The second level of problem is there's a lot of external data that is being generated in terms of inventory, in terms of sales, third party, final consumer sales, marketing data, media data. All of it is not fully getting captured in one single place, and that becomes a bigger issue to even do any connected intelligence. When your data is siloed, and then you will not be able to do even overall connected intelligence in these ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. In my experience, and again, the bulk of my consulting projects have been for financial services companies who have data about their own customers, right? Every bank or insurance company should have data, first-party data, but the challenge is how do I put all my marketing and sales and customer service and my internal data all together? And often that's when I brought in as a consultant to stitch the data together. So that's a big challenge right now for companies. And then there's the bigger challenge when, okay, if you don't put the data together, how do you even run a model, right? And this is a fun story. I don't know why all these stories are coming to me today. I visited an agency. I won't tell you where. I won't tell you the name of the agency. About 5-6 years ago, and on one of their walls, they had this big poster with a linear regression line. And it said, keep it simple, stupid. All right. And so if you're going to use a normal, simple linear regression line to fit the data in this complex world, I really don't know who's being stupid. So the world is much more complex. We haven't reached E is equal to MC square levels yet. I think there's a lot of work to be done. But when it comes to pure model specification, there are challenges. What's the specification for a digital model? Is that the same for a sales and marketing model? Is that different for on some other channel? Maybe I'm doing shopper marketing. And so how do I specify models on different channels is just a huge headache. In addition, we know things like simultaneity, multicollinearity, is an absolute pain for every marketer and every analyst. You have sometimes way too much columns, right? The P greater than N problem, multidimensional. I have too much data about a customer. I don't know what is really important and how do I sort of, rationalize what's important is again, a huge challenge. Things are often correlated and because marketers are not making decisions independently, like in a model, right? In a model, you assume that the independents are variable. Independent variables are not really correlated and they are orthogonal. That's not really the case in the real world. I'm thinking about digital and retail span together at the same time. One area where I feel marketers, and especially the world of practice, just don't give enough importance to is endogeneity. And if you don't care about endogeneity, your results are just biased, right? This is, if any analyst gone through a good data science program knows this, but the omitted variable bias, when your errors are correlated with your X's, is a huge problem in terms of understanding what do the coefficients even mean. They're completely biased. You really haven't got to the true causal model, and that creates all sorts of issues in terms of how do you overcome challenges of endogeneity. In fact, as an academic, I can tell you that is the biggest barrier to publication. if you try and run a model which is not accounted for endogeneity in marketing, it is incredibly hard to get published because you're making some really strong assumptions that these decisions were made in a vacuum in an independent space without anything else affecting my X's that I think would drive Y. So I think there's also a need to sort of to educate the marketing community about some of these challenges here. So, but feel free to jump in.
Yeah. So the other thing, one of the important things on the learning paradigms or the existing learning paradigm is that at a core of it, most of the learning systems right now in the statistical world assume that all the variables are independent, even though we're all living in an interconnected world. Unless we understand the synergies of it, it's almost certain that whatever model you're doing is actually not giving you the actual, like how Vijay said, the real causal understanding of what is working and what is not working, right? So that's the other challenge that we keep encountering when we're doing the models like this.
Correlation is another. It sounds very simple, but correlation is just not between variables, but it could also be between brands, between markets. I did a project for a B2B company a few years ago where we saw some really strong spatial correlation of sales over different geographies. And, there are simple things like that that are not taken into account and sort of, overestimate or underestimate the X's that you actually put in the model right here. So I think the world is a little bit more complex than we think it is. And I think our models don't really reflect the true real world or what we call in academia as the DGP or the data generating process, right? So, but fortunately, we have a solution here, which is the connected intelligence framework. And we'll share a couple of slides on what this framework means. But this is a slide when Bharat shared with me from DataPoint and just completely blew my mind because I think this is a great way to look at the whole decision making that happens in the world of marketing. So the first thing is really looking at growth planning at that top level. What is it that you're really trying to drive in terms of your big ROIs or big return on marketing investments? And this is just a few of them. You could have many more. You could have, for instance, new product launch, right? Or new product development. You could have something here. You might want to say, hey, I'm doing some growth marketing right here, and I want to know what is the ROI of my big spends in growth marketing. So there are many other things that you could put in here. But the first thing is really understanding it at a broad strategic level. What is a return on marketing investment in all these different areas where I'm spending millions of dollars? And if you go then to the next slide, then you can see a comprehensive and the granular part sort of coming together. So the comprehensive is really that growth planning part of it in terms of strategic planning. You're looking at a bunch of internal factors and external factors. And this is typically at a more senior level, maybe at a marketing manager or a category manager, or maybe one level below a CMO, really trying to figure out what's really going on with my overall business and where is it going? What's going to happen in the next quarter or two? And can I forecast for a reasonable period of time with a high level of accuracy? And then on the operational level or at a more granular level, you're trying to figure out, is this campaign really working? Is my blog strategy really working? Are people coming to the blog and then coming to my website and then ordering something on my platform? So from a granular perspective, you're really trying to look at what content is working for you, how you're influencing customers, maybe with other social media influencers is working with you. So you're working maybe with different channels, different partners right here. And maybe you have a bunch of event marketing stuff going on, PR. There's a lot going on earned and shared media, right? Paid and owned is one part of it, but earned and shared are becoming really important. And so what is really going on when with the effect of shared media or earned media? I joke when I teach students and when in my exec ed class, I trust a stranger on Amazon more than the brand. And so a stranger's experiences on Amazon often has a greater effect on me than what the brand itself has on me in terms of paid and owned. So really looking at all these different pieces of communication and content coming together is really important at the granular level. But do you want to take the slide?
Yeah, basically, if you look at it at a overall level, if you just look at marketing function, how it flows down the connected intelligence, straight from all the factors at strategic level to actually tactical level of optimization. The same thing can be applied for sales, same thing applied for trade, same thing can be applied for demand planning, because you have one unified system which is kind of connected across all drivers and taking down from uh, strategic allocation level to functional optimization or tactical optimization. That way, it actually helps you to get the best overall ROI for your investments. Yeah. So this is all good. So now the actual part, look at how do we do this?
All right. So how do we do this?
I do have a few questions. I mean, I'm not sure if this is the right point to ask them, but a few of the questions that came up from the team here is one is you showed the slide where you actually had shopper marketing information, you had retail marketing data, and so forth. So from my team standpoint, we're actually creating individual models for each one of them. Based upon that, what is the downside of us with those separate models as opposed to more of an integrated type of approach? And is that long-term the best way for us to approach this?
Yeah. So at a very fundamental level, what happens when you do a siloed models is a lot of halo effects of these in, let's say shopper marketing inputs or retail media inputs. We are not able to measure what is happening at a holistic level, right? So for example, a lot of times shopper marketing models are done only at a retailer level. But actually, when you look at retail media, it's not just within the walled garden of a Walmart or a Target or an Amazon. It impacts beyond that. So what happens is that, and this is true for whether it's a shopper marketing isolated model or a media isolated model, right? The cross-functional halos or cross-channel synergies that we call are kind of completely missed, and which can actually give you a very wrong picture of what's the true ROI, right? And hence your allocation is wrong, your overall optimization is wrong, and all the challenges Vijay pointed out in the beginning, which is your forecasting accuracy is not so great, you're not able to allocate right money against right tactics. So it kind of becomes suboptimal. That's why the siloed one uh, has these issues of not able to get the real total picture, and hence it's it's not giving you the right output, that the effort that you're, I mean, at least it's not giving you or showing you the right output for the effort that you guys are putting in. So that's why it's always important to be able to have a model architecture which is unified and which is interconnected, right? So the two important questions that you should always look at, like how Vijay was saying, you need to ensure that all the factors are taken into consideration into the model, and whether the model is able to understand the cross-channel synergies, because that's the more important thing, right? So in the case when we're going to talk about, we're going to show you some of the synergies that are built by shopper marketing, uh, as well as cross-functional synergies. So you'll understand what I'm really actually talking about.
A second question off of that comes back to in conversations with my existing vendor. They're saying that it's very difficult for us to take in all of these disparate siloed pieces of information, meaning our models can't handle all of these individual disparate components. What does DataPoem do differently that can actually help solve for that problem?
I think we are just answering that question from here to the next 4 slides. It's primarily the causal framework that we have with neural networks helps you manage hundreds of features, which can go as granular or as comprehensive as possible. So we will answer this question as we are talking in this section on how do we get to a connected intelligence framework. We'll answer that.
We'll answer.
Thank you.
Great. So, so coming back to the causal AI framework, which is really, the main idea behind data poem. The first thing is just making sure you have all the data, right? And you really don't want to omit anything. And again, the beauty of the technology and the machinery that data poem has is that they'll take the fire hose. They'll take everything. They're not really going to try and skimp on everything. And again, a lot of it need not be PII data. A lot of it could just be aggregate data, the data at aggregate level. We don't really need data at the customer level, which is a beautiful thing. And especially as you go to a world without cookies and GDPR, there are concerns on privacy, you have a machinery here that really doesn't need disaggregate customer level data. So the first thing is really building out that data hub and making sure you have every channel systematically captured, and the whole data ingestion process at Data Poem is absolutely seamless. They have resources, and Bharat is going to talk more about how they actually make this happen. But if you want to say it now, we can say it, or we can say it for the case study. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So on this part, one of the important operational challenge, like how Vijay has been telling about the data silos and not having comprehensive data. The first thing that we addressed is in terms of having the data, a unified collective data that is there. What we've done is to avoid a lot of the operational lift from the organizations. We bought a lot of syndicated data ourselves. So there's a preloaded data sets that are available. And then, of course, there are APIs that we use to actually pull in data from digital channels. So most of the data that is required for collection, collation, and unification is kind of available with us. And the organization just has to validate the data that all the factors are taken into consideration, right? So that's how we actually build this unified data hub, which will help you to do all the other three things that Vijay is going to talk about. Yeah, Vijay, the second aspect.
Yeah. So the second aspect is really the use of neural networks. Now, we are not using traditional econometric models, right? Most economic models have this P greater than N constraint. So if I have too many columns, but I don't have enough N, it's almost impossible to estimate a model because you run into something called degrees of freedom. And so here, using neural networks, we sort of get away from that. And let's go to the next slide. And I think 2 slides, yeah. So we're using something, and I'm sure many of you have read a lot about neural networks. It really comes from how humans actually work and perceive objects. We're looking at layers of information, and as we get deeper, we are able to extract more intelligence and more information out of it. So that's really the idea behind, deep learning or neural networks right here. So you're really trying to then look at that granular level, what's going on in all these different channels with all my different campaigns. And then you're able to figure out what are the interconnections. So maybe you have a siloed model for just shopper marketing, but now you can see what's going on in your digital marketing or social media marketing and how that might be working with your price promotion or retail media within the store to really then get to that higher level outcomes that you're looking at, right? So this is the beauty of using neural networks, where you can look at many pieces of information, and there's really no constraints that typical econometric models pose on you. So then if you go to the next slide, then that's not it, right? There's a lot of concern about what AI is all about, and can you even trust AI? Because AI is not going to throw coefficients at you. You're not going to get betas. What you're going to get is a bunch of plots saying how important each variable is to the outcome. But we use Data Poem uses Judopol's framework. Judopol, if many of you have not heard of him, he's a Turing Prize winner. And he's got this wonderful book called The Book of Why. So again, as an academic, there's a book recommendation here coming from me, which is, it's a fantastic book to really understand how do you build causal models. And Judopol has sort of said that for causality to be established, there needs to be 3 things. The first thing is really association. Are X and Y really associated with each other? The second point is really about intervention. So now, what if I do X? If I do X, will I actually get Y? So really looking at the intervention. And the third and really important aspect is counterfactual. You're really testing if Y is caused by X. And so what you're going to say is, what if I remove X? would I still get the same level of Y? And so these counterfactuals are really important when you're trying to establish causality. And so that's the beauty of using a causal AI framework, where you are not just looking at a bunch of plots, but you're really looking at the explainability, the traceability, and really figure out whether this works the way it is intended to, with a high precision, which is forecasting accuracy, which Bharat will talk to you, right? So you need all these three things to really establish causal AI: explainability, traceability, and a high level of forecasting accuracy, which again, DataPoem does, and we'll share that with you. So to then move on to the, do you want to say more here, Bharat?
Yeah, so primarily, a lot of times, Vijay, you would know as academic, this question about, neural networks being black boxes, or the conversation about how, like, the degrees of freedom is kind of, eliminated by the framework, which helps them to, one, get comprehensive list of features without worrying about, like how you said, P greater than N situation, as well as get the causation at a very core, using counterfactuals, so that you are very sure about what's the real causal effect, which will help you to forecast and actually act upon it, right? And that's one of the reasons why we are very much drawn towards a causal AI, because, like I said in the beginning of the session, the ability to be able to action upon a recommendation based on a system intelligence is a very, very critical thing for any planner, right? And the good thing about this is that because the real causal effect is kind of established, we almost get accuracies more than 90% all the time. And that helps in actually decision making and action, right? So that's primarily in terms of the framework. And Tom, if there are any questions, we can take the questions before we get into the case study.
Sure. So one of the questions that we have right now is, many organizations have invested substantial dollars in creating siloed data management systems with model creations. What is the best way to transition from these silos to a more organized, connected intelligence platform? And honestly, where do we start?
Yeah, so, that's the big challenge, right? I mean, no organization can replace an existing system where efforts, time, investments, as well as some level of business alignment happen. The biggest challenge to transition is, hey, do we need to replace stuff? I think what, at least from our side, we strongly believe that the transition to causal AI will not be by replacement, by augmenting existing processes, right? So what the system, at least the system that we have, we call it your MMM to the power of DataPoem, which is primarily your model. We'll take your intelligence model and kind of use that model as a starting point and integrate it with our neural networks model, kind of ensemble it, so that you have the existing intelligence without being disturbed, transition into a new system where you understand cross-channel synergies, long-term effect, a granular utilization, as well as getting data at a much faster pace, like a monthly or a quarterly level, which you might not be getting right now. So the first step is to find out a system or a provider which helps you to do the augmentation part, rather than almost like a replacement system, right? Replacement is not going to work. It's about transitioning and augmenting the existing system to move into a causal AI world.
Another question came up regarding neural networks. So in meetings with my analytic team, my analytic lead mentioned that she said that she's actually utilized neural networks a number of years back. And it's kind of a black hole or a black box, so to speak, in terms of what is actually going on within that model. How can you ensure that we won't go down the path of it being a black box and we'll have visibility in terms of what is happening, how it's happening, and give us a higher level of confidence that it's just not a vacuum that we're sending our data into. It's actually something concrete for us to be able to analyze.
Vijay, you would want to take it. I'll also tell my experience, but I want an academic perspective too.
Yeah, there's definitely, there's been evolution in how these neural networks have been created and tested and validated. So validation is a big part. I think there's a whole a body of work around explainable AI. So instead of just using it as a black box, how do I actually explain the results? And going back and looking at it, there are sort of well-validated processes and techniques here to think about, what explains the results. I think that's the fundamental part now for just about any analytics company using neural networks. The other thing is the proof is in the pudding. You have to look at the forecasting accuracy, because so if the model says that with over 90% accuracy, if you do these X's, you are bound to get this Y in this range, check it in the market. So test it in the market and see whether you actually get those results. So to going back to the previous question that Bharat was answering, I would say use a neural network as a challenger model. That's how I've seen it in some of the companies being deployed. So you stay with your current model, you use your neural network as a challenger model, and see in the real world whether the neural network actually gives you a better forecasting accuracy. And so that way, you know what's going on, you're able to compare models, and then you're able to choose the one that best suits your business needs right there. That's the way to really go.
Yeah. I think so. The fundamental reason why we, a lot of times people only think moment someone says neural network, they believe that that's what we're getting all the answers from, right? Neural network is just a learning engine. What is giving you the actual causal impact is, like how Vijay said, from an explainable AI system, which is helping you understand what is the causation and what is the causal impact, right? So I understand a lot of us practitioners have used neural networks almost 10 years back, 15 years back, where you can get good predictability, but you don't know really what is the system learning, right? That kind of changed when the whole body of explainable AI kind of came into picture, and no longer, neural networks are black boxes. We are able to distill out all the learning of causation and can help get user understand the why in a very, very detailed manner. So to answer the question, I think neural networks are no longer black boxes when used along with explainable AI paradigm frameworks.
Thank you.
Any questions? Any further questions? Should I go into the case study?
Yes.
Tom?
Yep.
Okay, great. So, like I said, we're going to take you through the kind of indexed numbers of a real world use case where we're talking about all the things that we just said, the problems of siloed ROI, or the optimization issues, the forecasting issues, the granular optimization. We kind of built it with our, the AI cockpit system. Let's go in it. The system is built with the same framework, like we said, which is a connected intelligence framework where all business drivers are taken into consideration. All the external factors like, holiday, seasonality, weather, everything is built into the system. Raw material pricing is built into the system so that the system will understand what is the impact of pricing also into the overall thing. So if you look at it, we are able to help the organization almost give them the enterprise level ROI of all the business drivers that are helping them get incremental sales, right? So now there is a one unified view of what is working and what is not working, and cannot have different answers of, hey, it is working in shopper model, but it's not working in media model. So there's one model which is kind of helping you measure ROI across e-commerce, branding, trade, shopper, promo. So you have one ROI to actually plan with across all, one ROI metric to plan across different drivers. And like I was telling about a couple of minutes ago, one of the important aspects of intelligence model or connected system is that you're able to understand the cross-channel synergies that are happening between different functions. So if you look at the trade function here in this case, you will realize that trade on its own, in the absence of shopper and paid media, would have got only 53% of its causal impact, right? Because paid media and shopper are there, the trade got a very, very high overall effectiveness, right? And similarly, if you look at it on the right side, if you would have done paid media, shopper, and trade alone, you would have got only 29% of lift. Whereas by doing it together, it's almost giving you 6.6% of additional lift, which is almost close to 20% of cross-channel synergies or a halo effect, which we would have not captured in a siloed model of a media model or a shopper model or a trade model, right? So that's very important to understand to make, and that actually changes the whole dynamic of what is the real forecasting accuracy, right? Then the next level, you can look at it from not only at a higher level of business drivers, but look at very individual within media also. How did a Super Bowl work? How did a uh, digital work? What is the social campaign work? And the other important aspect, right? So all things that every business does has a short-term effect as well as a long-term effect, right? And if you look at it, and each channel and function will have a different level of short-term and long-term effect. And that's important also to understand when you're creating a plan. Like, for example, Super Bowl, if you measure it only on the short-term effect here, you would have get only 70% of its impact, because there's a 33% impact which is happening beyond the short-term cycle that normal models actually look at, right? So it's important to understand not only the comprehensive short-term effect, but also to understand the long-term effect of all these different drivers to give you a holistic sense. And then, like we said, we can help you understand, get a very granular ROI at a events level, at a channel level, which is social, video, at a platform level, as well as an audience level, which gives you a very, very good sense of what tactic is working, what channel is working, so that you not optimizing at a media level or a digital level, but optimizing at a campaign level or a tactic level that you're actually investing the money in, right? So that helps you to have a full control of what is working and what is not working, not on a strategic level, but at a very tactical level. So basis this ROI insights, this is the recommendations the system has given the client. Uh, in this scenario, the client has taken a price increase, and because of the price increase, there is a overall revenue drop, and the client teams are trying to understand how do we offset it using media and other business drivers. The system is able to understand, to negate the impact of price change, it needs to increase the budget by 10% so that they can actually maintain their revenues, right? So all kinds of business scenarios are possible because the system now has all the factors connected. So you can actually create forecasting scenarios or business planning scenarios across the board. Similarly, the same level, you can do it at a paid media level. Now within media, now you've got a overall business level. Now you can optimize within media, you can optimize within channels, you can optimize within platforms like Facebook, and you can optimize within audiences also. So in every level, from a bottom up to strategic level, you have the control and the opportunity to optimize, and you do it in a very regular manner, like in a monthly manner, the way our system provides, helps the client's teams not only wait for the end results and kind of get into a very proactive optimization situation. How does it help the client? Overall, they're able to help the long-term brand equity, but also increase the overall ROI for marketing, as well as achieve the overall forecasting at a 92% accuracy, like I said, right? Which, Vijay was telling about what is the touchstone of any great model is about forecasting accuracy in the long-term period. And that's what we're able to achieve with the forecast that we gave the brand of how much to invest and what to do about it. And this is what we believe very strongly from a connected intelligence system. We are able to move from a descriptive world of insights, descriptive world of analytics, to a very prescriptive and predictive world, because you can actually action upon it, right? So that's why it is very important to break the intelligence silos and actually have a connected intelligence framework. And the advancement in analytics, right, moving from statistical techniques to causal AI framework, will actually help you achieve that, right? So that's what it is. And now we can do, Q&A.
Great. I have one question for you, Bharath. Right now, as a company, we're doing market mix modeling, multi-touch attribution. We're doing it twice per year. The difficulty with it is it's not very timely. In fact, we're getting it approximately 2 to 3 months after the measurement period. I heard you mention something about monthlies. Can you actually go into that and what that implication has in terms of the usability of the data? Or did I mishear? And is it still that period of time where, we look at it, we throw it back on the back of the credenza, and we can't use it for optimization purposes?
Yeah. So one of the things that we are very clear about is that when we actually build this system, one of the problem is the agility of the model, right? Or the velocity of ROI insight that you're getting, which are, like you said, twice in a year. If you get it at 3 months lag, you're almost 9 months behind the curve, right? Which is of no use for any prescriptive modeling world, right? So what we do is we actually, update the model or create incremental learning on a monthly basis. So you get the ROI of your all marketing or sales efforts the next month, it almost like 3 months into the next month. So you have the opportunity now to make changes as you go along. So imagine we are in November first week. So let's say for all the October campaigns performance, you're able to get it by November 20th, right? So that you can actually make those changes and actually work on them to build it into the next campaign plan.
Do you see a synergy between the client and their respective agency in terms of the utilization of this information? Or do you see there's an adoption period or some friction that may occur? What has been your experience with that?
See, like we said, moment we move from a descriptive world or a postmortem world to an actionable prescriptive world, the friction kind of disappears. And now from our experiences, client teams actually, involve the execution partners, whether they're internal execution partners or the external execution partners like agencies. They all come on board and kind of, work along with the intelligence system to create their own scenarios and optimization as we go along. Yes, the initial period of adoption takes time because everyone wants to have the confidence to actually implement the recommendations. Once they keep seeing the confidence, the utilization increases more and more. So that's how it works.
Got it. And one last question for you. I noticed, when we're looking at short and long term as a company, in most cases we use a proxy, right? So we're utilizing something that's relatively static. So we're saying that our short term is 70%, our long term is 30%. And we apply that across the board. And thus far, it hasn't been problematic overall. But what are your thoughts? Because I noticed that you actually had Super Bowl, with a short-term impact and a long-term impact. And then I saw shopper marketing, I thought in there, that was at 90% short-term and 10%. How does that impact the media buying process? How does that impact forecasting accuracy? And what has been your experiences with that?
Yeah, so exactly, when, like I said, every activity of the brand, right? Whether it's marketing, sales, promotion, price changes, everything has a short-term impact and everything has a long-term impact, right? And it is an ongoing impact that's going on, right? And every channel or a driver or a tactic has a different short-term impact versus a long-term impact. A very close to the purchase point has a lesser short-term, long-term impact, whereas campaigns which are geared towards building brand preference or brand affinity will have a much larger long-term impact. So the important thing is to build, to completely understand that each channel and tactic will have a different short-term and long-term effect, and it has to be measured independently and not take a surrogate of, like how you said, a heuristic number that will always create an issue of forecasting accuracy or, even to build any recommendation system. Like, if you have a same short-term, long-term effect of Super Bowl and shopper, your allocation also will change accordingly, right? So it's important to understand the value of both short-term and long-term for each individual channel. And you have to do it in a single unified model so that you have the insights to be able to optimize it together also if required. So.
And final question, a meeting such as this nature would never be complete if a question doesn't pop up along the lines of pricing, right? It sounds like causal AI with neural networks is in a very, very expensive proposition compared to what I'm currently doing today. Is that a truism? Is that some concern that we should have? Or is it something that there's more, because you're utilizing technology, there's some more efficiencies which lead to some cost effectiveness?
No, I think the pricing perception about building a neural network primarily comes from the fact that all the neural networks used by chat GPTs of the world are very expensive, right? So that's where the perception of, neural network system requires high cost, right? That's a model which is taking millions of features, right? And that's a different level of intelligence that has to be required, and that's a cost. But for us, what our experience with our innovation on neural network architecture, we are able to build the system with almost less than what the present costs are for a statistical model.
Got it. Well, great, gentlemen. That was the last question that we had. So I want to say thank you so much for a very in-depth meeting. In terms of the folks that are actually on the line, if we've missed any additional questions that you'd like us to follow up on, please feel free to send me an email or send the team an email, and we'll get right on it and respond to you right away. I would encourage everyone that's on this line is to join us for those other 4 sessions, because this will fill in some additional gaps that may exist in your knowledge about connected intelligence. Our confidence in connected intelligence in terms of how it's going to revolutionize the business specifically in a go-forward basis, is along the lines of AI. So if you're not going to have connected intelligence and AI in your arsenal looking forward, you're going to be falling behind in terms of what some of the new techniques and new approaches are going to be in terms of marketing. So we encourage you to join us on these next few presentations. And again, thank you, Vijay. Thank you, Bharat, for joining us.
Thanks,
Take care.
Vijay. Thanks, Tom.